Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another session with Intrinsic Motivation from a homie's perspective. I am Hamza.
And I'm David.
And today we have the wonderful guest, Mary Bell Nyman. And Mary Bell is the director at the Boulder Psychic Institute in Boulder, Colorado. And she has a very long history both with David and David's mother, Joanne, that we all know from Horizon here in Atlanta, but she has a wonderful story, and I'm very happy to have her on our call today. So welcome, Mary Bell.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good. Yes, I'm really excited because David actually let me see some of the early advertising and magazines and newsletters from Berkeley Psychic Institute in the 80s.
I know. Isn't that great?
I know.
We've come a long way, as they say. Oh, yes.
Yes, indeed. So I kind of jumped way far ahead, but to get started with people that don't know you, Mary, if you'd like to talk a little bit about yourself and your hello. We always interview people and talk about their hello and how they got into this realm, if you will. And I just finished watching your Spiritual Woman Leaders, so you didn't really have a gap like most people have. So I think your story is very unique if you could tell the audience about your background.
Well, I was one of 5 children when my mother died in a car accident. And so there were 5 of us kids under 6. I was 3, right in the middle. And you know, that was a tremendous tragedy for the family. So my grandmother and aunt came to take care of us. And, you know, they'd say, oh, honey, your mom's in heaven. And all of us kids would go, no, she's right there. You know, we could see her as a spirit. So, you know, we were sad that her body wasn't there, but we all saw her spirit. And every one of us went into a spiritual path this lifetime. So I really feel like, you know, at 3 you don't get it totally what a gift it is, because death always brings a tremendous gift. But you know, as you grow up, you really see, wow, her leaving, although that was a tragedy on one level, was also the best gift, because it kept all of our spiritual awareness intact for all of us. So I think, you know, if that hadn't happened and there hadn't been so many of us that saw the same thing, we might have lost it like most kids do. But it did keep it alive and well. And so for me, being psychic has always just been like breathing. It's just there. And it's very comforting. I've worked a lot in hospice, helping people die. Worked a lot in birth, welcoming a new spirit into a body, and taught handicapped kids. I mean, there's so many different ways you can communicate with spirit. So it's been a great adventure, and I must say I've missed my mother at many junctures in my life, but she's always right there as spirit, so it's easy to connect with her.
Now, let me ask real quick, Mary. You said that you and your siblings were, you know, very aware of your mom as spirit. You'd say, oh, no, there she is right there or whatnot. How was that was your father the same? Was he aware of her? And how did he take to you children being aware of her?
I think my dad had been having an affair with his nurse, who was a doctor. And so I think he was so guilty that he became an atheist after her death. He was a young doctor. He couldn't save her. It was right before seatbelts. And so she broke her neck. She died very, you know, instantly.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, he was so in his own grief bubble, he really didn't give much credence to stuff. I did see spirits in the room as a kid, and I can remember him saying, oh, there's nothing there. And, you know, you could point to it and see the little spirit float by.
Yeah.
But I think kids pretty quickly learn, you know, if adults can have that or not.
Yeah.
So we just learned to stop talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
with you, with that happening in such a experience at such a young age, and being able to see your mother, were you anyone else in your family? Did they have the gift before you, or do you think
I
that
would say,
you think
this
happening was more so a trigger?
I think it was more so a trigger. Like my siblings, I had two older than I, my sister and a brother, and we're all very gentle spirits. We all share a great sense of humor and a passion for life. And they might, I'm sure, all kids are spiritually aware. Really, when they go to school is when it gets turned off. So I would say it was such a strong trigger that all of us kept it intact. And we do it different ways. One's a Sufi, two are Buddhists, one's a yogi, a swami. So we all use or express it differently, but we're very open to each other's paths. Then I have two brothers from a second marriage. One's a born-again Baptist and one's a Catholic. So, you got the whole gambit there.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's but we all dearly love each other and support each other on the, each person's path. So it works.
I'm sure it's very interesting on Sunday dinner with all those people there.
Definitely. Yeah, and some of the spouses have gotten, real education.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but we all are really good friends. Half of them are politically one camp and the other camp, so that's about the only thing we don't. There's too much heated discussion, so that's about the only thing we don't talk about at family dinners is politics. So
yeah,
that makes it easy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, I referenced the magazines and the newsletters with Berkeley Psychic Institute, and you had mentioned that it never really turned off from you, your psychic awareness at 3 years old. So what was it like getting introduced to that group? Did you live at Berkeley at the time? Did you move there as a teenager or in college? What's your beginnings with the Berkeley Psychic Institute?
I went through college in Kentucky, and then I moved down to Florida and taught handicapped children, birth to 3. And in the back of my mind, I always was looking for my people. Where were other people I could connect with? Because I just knew there had to be other psychics in the world. And so I narrowed it down to 2 places, Berkeley and Boston. And Boston just seemed like stuck up, and Berkeley seemed mellow, and I was more a little flower child myself. So I drove in search of psychics. I quit my job in Florida and I'd never driven more than 6 or 7 hours, I don't think, at a time, but I drove in search of psychics and got a reading at the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And that was it. I was home. And so I sold an old classic Jag I had and moved to Berkeley. And started.
What year was that?
That was 1979.
79, okay.
Yeah, 79, 78 or 79, one of those. But that's when I started. And then within a year, I was teaching at the Yin Yang Seminary, for psychic kids. So we had 5 kids, and my boss, Susan, said, well, I want to hire you, but, we need to get more kids. So I sat all the kids down in meditation and said, okay, let's call in all your friends. And about 11 women in our community turned up pregnant. And I went, oops. I thought they'd already have bodies, but
yeah.
So that was kind of a hoot. And kids will do that to you. They're just amazing at their ability. This one little girl I can remember coming home at the gate, and she said, "Oh, my mom's pregnant, and it's a boy, and his name's Jason." I said, "Oh, that's great, Christy." And so when that mom came, I said, "Congratulations on the new baby." And she goes, "I'm not pregnant." And the next morning she comes in and she goes, I'm pregnant.
How did you know?
And you know how the story goes. It was a boy, and they named him Jason. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
And they're not trying. They're just playing.
Yeah, they don't know.
It was a great experience.
So is it like, I have to ask you, working with children, as an aside, I got my master's in early childhood. I taught second grade. I'm in the Big Brother, Big Sister program, so I love that. But my question for you is, you've had this ability at 3 years old and you never turned it off. But
right.
What is it like when you see the children leave that no limitation and then they get to adolescence and they pretty much lose it to be cool?
Well, it's interesting. The body is a powerful thing. And when those hormones turn on around 12, somewhere between 12 and 13, you forget the world of spirit. You go into the world of the body because the sexual hormones are so strong in both the male and the female that the body kind of takes over. And then, so psychic goes on the back seat. And then in the 20s, it comes back. It's like you start to master some of that sexual energy and tension in the teenage years. And then in the 20s, you'll see people starting to trust their intuition again. And I think a lot of kids go through that cycle. They have the answer, but they want to fit in. I personally, I was so into spirit as a kid, and I didn't care what group I belonged to. I fit in any of them. I never felt ostracized, but I never cared about being in the in crowd. So I just kind of floated through things. I think I was a kind child and I had a lot of laughter, so I was accepted by people, but I never really went through giving it up to fit in. It just was always there, and to me it felt like common sense, kind of, where you just had more empathy. You could see where someone was coming from. I used to play a game in my mind. Like if I met, say, David and his brother and mom, in 5 minutes I could tell you the family agreements between them. So it's kind of a game I played as a kid, reading each kid and their family and just noticing how each family was so different. And, I didn't think anything of it. It was just normal to me. Yeah.
So looking at their agreements, you were like, oh, you'll be back, and I know when you'll be back. So have fun.
Yeah. And, just like, oh, you picked that mom because, you're creative and she has so much permission to have creativity, or she's working on her power and you want to learn about power this lifetime. So it's, what kind of agreement you made. Because as a soul, you pick your parents more than they pick you. Now, that's a comforting thought. Yeah. Unless you feel like you had a few shots of tequila before you went through the parent choosing line. Somebody always says, I didn't pick them. But we do.
Yeah,
they're a hoot.
So when you said that, so within a year after you started taking classes and whatnot, you started doing with the yin yang, and obviously, for full disclosure, I've known Mary for, I don't know how long, about 30 years, I think at least, or more than that.
Yeah.
And
she was
more than that. She was, my first clairvoyant teacher, the woman that taught me how to read, and but I know you've taught a lot of other classes. So what are some of the other, after starting with the yin yang, what were some of the other classes that you taught in the early days when you were at BPI?
Well, I taught meditation and the clairvoyant class, like how to read. And everybody's clairvoyant. It's like everybody's an artist. And some of us are on the stick figure level, and some of us are, go towards Mona Lisa, but most of us fall in the middle.
Yeah.
And everybody has spiritual ability. If you're alive, you're psychic. It's just you don't think of it that way. Like, we constantly read people. You sit at the airport or at a restaurant, and you start to make up this story about that family across from you and what's happening, and you don't even think of it. You're just, your mind's just playing. And yet, most of the time, if you went up and said, "Oh, by the way, we're just curious, what is blah, blah, blah?" you would find that you're about right 90% of the time. It's really hard to make something up. So I think the clairvoyant class was my favorite. And it's just so there for anybody. It's just learning to play with it. And that's what I got from the kids, is the reason they're so capable is they're playing.
Yeah.
As adults, we get really serious. So if you're having fun, you see twice as much. It really increases your awareness. So that was a great gift they gave me, was really being able to see more and more.
Okay. So that's where kind of that theme of amusement and enthusiasm kind of comes from when teaching, is because when you're in that space, you could, there's that no effort space, right?
Yeah. Or if you want to control someone, you get them serious.
Yeah.
Because nothing can change when it's serious. But the minute you can get mildly amused about any facet of it, you raise the vibration, and you're not stuck anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck in this job you hate, you just resist it, there's no motion. It's hideous. It's such a hard feeling.
Yeah.
But if you can at least be amused that you hate your job and you're still there, then it gives you just an ounce of energy to say, okay, I'm going to start looking for something else.
Yeah, make some change, yeah.
So just let's change happen.
Now, talking about change and being in the flow, it seems like on some level the more things change, the more they stay the same. And you had mentioned you were at University of Kentucky, you were working in Florida, and you were like, you need to be around your people. And it's really interesting here in Atlanta where people that were coming to Horizon, if they lived, the farther out they were, the more outside of the city, the more they felt ostracized. And it was just really good to be inside. We call it inside the perimeter. So inside the bubble is where you can be more so around your people. But overall, it still seems like California, maybe the Northeast, more so than the Southeast as far as awareness or not the ability to be yourself.
Right. I would agree with that. There's certain pockets that have a certain vibration. Like, I moved to Boulder, Colorado, sight unseen. It had the right vibration. And so for me, it was like California was getting too polluted. There was too much traffic. It took you an hour to drive across Berkeley. It was just so many people. And I'd been there 17 years, and I was ready for a change. And I just read the whole United States, and I picked two places, Boulder, Colorado, or the Blue Mountains of Australia. And Australia's a little far, harder to visit people that you know. So I thought, all right, I'll start in Boulder. And so I just packed my car and moved sight unseen. I had a lady I'd read, Hope, who I'd read her for a couple of years by phone. I'd never met her. And she said, oh, you're coming out. You can stay with us. I thought, all right, I'll stay there a week until I find something. And they had just built out a downstairs basement apartment. And I came 4th of July. It was like 104 degrees. It was an unusual hot spell. And that basement was so cool. I'm like, great, I'll take it. So I moved in. And Hope, and she was a massage therapist, two of her friends, wanted to learn how to protect themselves while they did body work. so I started a little class, and then they wanted more, and I taught them how to read, and then we started doing readings in the public, and it just, I never intended to do it. I was going to work with kids, and the center just started, and 23 years old now, and so it's just, there it went.
Wow.
Like a runaway train, yeah.
And
then we, go ahead.
I never knew that. I thought,
yeah.
I thought when you went to Boulder, that was what you went there for, was to go open a center. I didn't know that originally that wasn't the plan. Wow.
Yeah, never was the plan.
Oh, okay.
And then we went once a month for 5 years to Vermont, and then down to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, taught there. And then Joanne was such a natural for running that center, because we didn't have any desire to run a center in Atlanta. We just were helping get everybody ready. And then, she was such a shoe-in. We were so lucky to have her. And same with Vermont. We taught them, and they couldn't quite get it together in the same way Joanne's an old soul, and they were a little bit more competitive in Vermont. But they did actually form a couple of little centers later. So we just felt like, it was the right thing to go and help wherever we could. And we've done the same in Chicago.
Yeah.
To a woman, Zubeen. Yeah.
So how was it decided how did Atlanta even come up? How did you decide to even come here? Was there someone already here, or?
Jim Self was down there.
Oh, okay. Jim Self, okay.
And I worked with Jim. He and I knew each other from BPI. And so he invited me to come down there and teach, and it just clicked. And so then he moved on, and we just kept going.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And then kind of he came back and we left. So it was kind of interesting. It's been back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's another great
actually
teacher.
My hello. He was actually my hello in 2009. I was more of a book. Yeah. I was more of a book person. I could, read a book and know it front to back, but it became more experiential in 2009 with Jim. And what was interesting is he had one of those weekends, a introductory weekend, and then I think he was going to Mount Shasta or something afterwards, and there was a group here that was going with him, and I was going to go too, and they had said, Hamza, you might not want to go, and I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, before you do that, there's someone here we'd like to introduce you to, and they introduced me to Joanne, and as I say, the rest is history. But I really love that there was, there's no accidents like you were saying, if it goes in the flow, because it was really interesting just sitting with Joanne on multiple occasions, and you have different psychics that come in capable or not even knowing they were capable, and they didn't hold their space. And because they weren't able to hold their space, they had so much upheaval in their lives. So learning the basic tools, in my opinion, I think everyone should know the fundamentals before moving forward.
Oh, yeah. And if you had that in school, like the kids we had, it's like ground. And really find your head, find the center of your head. And we called it their concentration space. It was like, how your thinking space, your bubble inside your head. So it makes taking a test or learning really easy. And as a psychic teacher, you learn how to teach to the child. Like they might see the equation 2 + 2 = 4 in a straight line. Or they might see 2 over 2 with a line under it is 4. Or they might see 4 objects. So it's like teaching to each method, the way each child learns, is kind of a fun challenge as a psychic teacher. How do you hold that space for each child to learn their own way and still get the material? Some kids are very tactile. Some are very mathematical. So, it's really kind of a fun challenge to work with psychic kids.
Before we had gotten on with you, David and I were talking about the time where Horizon had visited your institute, and I was, a little jealous because it was before my time. But, when I was there, we did our local little trips to different places. And I know, or I've heard, that with your center, you guys go to Brazil every year to John of God. I'd love for you to talk about that.
A lot of people go down to Abidjan. And when I first met John of God, it was actually in Atlanta. He first came to Atlanta. He only came to Atlanta once. And, we had heard of him as a healer. I'd never met him yet. So I said to a group, let's go down and we'll just hold space for him. And so they, in trade, they let us, be there. And we just ran what they call the current room, where you just ran the vibration of love. I didn't go down even for a healing. It was just, to hold that space so that he could heal people that needed it. And we all did get healing, but it really wasn't why we went. To me, running love for 8 hours a day, if you can't get healed doing that, you're dead. So, the energy was just amazing. And people would hit that door, and they'd walk in with all this crap, all the problems, all the pain, and they'd hit this pure vibration of 100 of us, just holding the energy of love. And, they'd just start bawling. Before they ever got their healing, they're walking through this vibration. And it was just amazing.
Wow.
And it was really impressive. And then they went from the room we were in, the current room, into the healing room. So that was the next phase of it. And that's where the physical healings took place. And I've experienced psychic surgery on many different levels, both physically, where they go inside the body, and if someone's hand's in your stomach going, and you can smell the copper scent of the blood, and that's a very real feeling.
Yeah.
So he does some of those kinds of healings and some invisible healings. So I next met him in New York at Omega Institute, and that's where he goes now, is to Omega Institute. And I think they don't do the same kind of in-body healings like the Philippine healers do from the Philippines.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different model, but down in Brazil, there's a lot more of that. It's just a really special place, and there's something about when you go down there and everything around you is surrounded by love, you start to remember who you are. Because as a soul, that's all we are, is love. And all these problems or issues that we work on really is just a cry for help to return to that state of love. And that's what he does as far as helping you find that. Now, there's a lot of controversy over John of God. Is he a quack? Is he, powerful? And one thing you want to remember is he's a medium. So he channels many different beings that come through that do healing. But because he's an open channel to so many, sometimes the dark one can slip in there as well as the beings of light. And I think for the most part, I would say he does a really good job. I do think sometimes he can get pulled off track by a sweet young thing, as any man can. And, he might have made some mistakes. I haven't experienced that with him. I really enjoyed my experience with him. But I have heard, those stories too. So it's just, if he's the right healer for you, you'll be attracted.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great thing if you can go down and spend, 2 weeks. It's very reasonable. I think the airfare's the big cost. But I have, friends of mine that take people down and act as their guides, and so it works really well. I like him. I've had a great healing from him.
David and I were looking at two scenarios. We're in an Intenders group that meets weekly, and the Intenders group, they want to go down the John of God in the near future, I think next month or so.
Mm-hmm.
But at Joanne's birthday party in May, there was an interest in going to Peru for an ayahuasca retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to compare the two. Have you had experience in going to Peru as well?
Well, I haven't, but I have a good friend who did, and she liked the experience. She didn't physically like the ayahuasca for her.
Mm-hmm.
It was too strong, but she loved the whole, like vision quest.
Mm.
And so, I think it's really individual. It's kind of like Chinese medicine. Some people really resonate with it. I like the acupuncture. That's much more my style than like the herbs. The herbs, and I don't resonate with them. But I like the acupuncture points with the meridians where it opens the line, channels.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar. It's like really listen to what your truth is. Your body will tell you.
Yeah.
And so, that neither of them are better than the other. They're just tools to help you find yourself. And the thing that struck me so much about John of God was when I got the healing, I saw where I was stuck on a picture from like 12 years ago by the time I went. And I was like, oh, I was holding energy where I hadn't forgiven myself or another person for a major disagreement. And I was like, wow, that's what's causing pain in my body. Isn't that amazing? I mean, It was crystal clear. And so in 2 minutes, I could forgive myself and that person, and the pain disappeared.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah. I think you can get insight from anything. It's just really listening to where you feel drawn and responding.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about holding the space when, since you guys go every year, it just reminded me initially of people that go to, a psychic fair every month, right, where they're giving
Mm-hmm.
seniority to the reader as opposed to being empowered to using their own tools to find out on their own. So I was just thinking, when people go every year, is it more so for his benefit or for their benefit?
And, I think, what I experience is I don't see, like, any of my students the same ones going every year.
Okay.
I see the ones that go yearly are more the ones that are group leaders, and they take other people down. Like Kate goes down, I think 3 or 4 times a year, and she'll take a group of 20 and help them through the process. And yes, she does get healings when she's down there. It's just kind of part of, you can't be there and not get a healing.
Right.
Again, it's like walking into that room, and it's so saturated with the vibration of love, you can't help but get healed.
Yeah.
So, it's like breathing. But I see people, that have got terminal things that go down. That to me is more a reason, if you want. But not just chase a particular psychic because they're, famous.
Yeah.
I don't see them doing that. Yeah.
Mm.
Is there a particular time of year that you guys go?
No, I would say the group usually goes down in the spring.
Mm-hmm. Around
But
the
I
spring
think,
equinox,
again, there's 4 times that they tend to go. Or with, Kate takes 4 groups down. So I think it's a matter of, how booked the casa is and when they can get that time, for a group. So, yeah, it just kind of depends on, life.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking more of a collaboration where, like the Horizon folks from Atlanta would go with the Boulder people.
Ah, that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, party,
Well,
baby.
That's right. However, once you get psychic surgery done, there's no drinking or having sex for 30 days.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I'm not going.
Yeah. So, because your body's in a whole different vibration, and you don't just get a healing and walk out. It goes on for a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to do your partying way before. But I will say this. You're welcome to come up anytime you want to the center. Whether you come by yourself or you come together or you bring a group, doesn't matter to me. We'll find you someplace to stay. And
yeah,
you're welcome to come up.
Before we came on air, I was telling them about that trip when Joanne had brought, a bunch of the students over. And I think I drove up from Albuquerque, and I was telling Hamza, I said, yeah, and I think we ended up going to Michael's lecture that weekend. But I said that you had a house full of people, and you were letting people crash there, because people were coming in from out of town and stuff, and so they didn't have the spending on the hotel. So we just had people everywhere, every room, and just couches, but it was great, man. We had a great, great time.
It really was fun. Yeah, we had a big house then, and now we're older, and so we, pared down.
Yeah.
But when we had the big house, it was really fun because we just had people visiting all the time. We just loved it.
Yeah.
One of my students. Go ahead.
Yes, I so love to come visit, especially when there was a lot of people there because, a house full of psychics. It was just, you couldn't help but have a good time. So
everything is fun. You're just laughing, and it's just so much fun. It's to have kindred souls, and really everybody has it. But when you get that connection, it's like you don't even have to explain everything. You're just in the right sync, and so it just flows. And
I have a party question for you, Mary.
Sure.
So, with regards to partying, if you will, have you seen the difference when you've worked both with birth and you worked in the hospice? Have you found, if we use the analogy of a party, that it's the same, like there's so much excitement for being able to incarnate again? And do you see the same as I'm excited because I'm going back home?
Oh, yeah. It is so similar. And, they're both so sweet. I love death. That sounds so strange, but it's such an honor to sit, at somebody's bed as they're dying and just, hold that space so that they're safe. And it's just such a sweetness. You're going back into nothing but love. And the only judgment is what you hold against yourself. There's no judgment on the other side. It isn't about right and wrong, how we've been kind of programmed. It's more about what did you learn. So if you make a mistake, it's like, great, what did you learn from it? And how does that change you as a person, as a soul? Because if you think about it, these bodies, we have them for a lifetime and release them, and then we take another one, and you're learning, like, what do you want to be for eternity? Do you want to be everlasting peace, continuous comprehension, undying love? What do you want to be as a soul for eternity? And so you're starting to create that through all the learnings of these bodies. And it expands you as a spirit. So you start to encompass more and more. And wherever you die, you take that information with you. So on the other side, you still have it. In the next lifetime, you pick a higher, a different kind of life using that information. It's really interesting. I said my dad became an atheist, and, all of us kids are spiritual. So we're like, oh, Dad, it's going to be so great. You're going to be so excited. And he's like, I am? We're like, yeah, death is awesome. And he's like, okay. So by the time he actually got down to like the last 2 days, he would start to say, now I know what's going to happen to me. I'm going to die and I'll be cremated, and he wanted to be buried in his rose garden. And he'd say, but what about those guys up there? What's going to happen to them? So he started to see spirits. And so we were, able to talk to him about that. And his biggest anguish was he was a brilliant man. He'd done medical school and, learned all these things. And he wanted to give his brain to someone. He said, it's just criminal that all that information dies when I die. It should go to someone so that they could take it the next leg of the journey. And it's like, you get to take it with you. It's not going to end. And he just could hardly fathom that. So he was very excited when he got to the other side. It took him a little while, and he was like, you were right. This is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to see that shift. Because, it's like reading a book. When you first start, you don't know much about the characters. But by the end of the book, you feel like, you've known them a long time if it's a really good book. And you see the whole picture. And it's the same when you die. It's like, oh, I thought I was right here and here, but wow, I was way off. But this I got, this I really learned a lot about. So it's kind of fun. And it's the same with birth, with these babies coming in. And these ones that came in, so aware. It was just amazing working with them. And they'd open their eyes, and there was that spirit you've been talking to for 9 months. Eyes open, hello, big as you please, right there.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And they're looking right at you with those eyes.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Yeah.
They're looking just right at you. It's a total hello. I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. And David, I'm going to tell a story on you, David. David, we used to call the gentle giant because he lived in one of the houses. And when the kids came to school in the daytime, David would bend way down, and they'd hold on to his little finger and totter across the floor. And I don't know who was more in love, those babies or David. It was just sweet as it could be.
I was. Yeah, they were just incredible, those little kids. Just, I always looked forward to hearing the stories, that you tell them what they did today or that or whatever. It was never a big deal to you because I know you were around it all the time, but to me, it was, and just real quick, I'll tell one, when I guess you guys were going on a field trip one day, and the day before, I remember you were telling one of the little kids, was a boy, and he had chicken pox or what's the other one, measles or something, one of those two, and you were telling him that he has to heal himself up or he can't go to the field trip. And boy, he came the next day and he didn't have a mark on his face.
Yeah.
He just
amazing.
Blew me away, and you were just like, it's no big deal. They do this all the time. I couldn't believe it. I remember what he looked like, and the next day he was like fine. He's like, I'm going on this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't tell me I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, they were amazing. They really were.
Yeah.
And it's just the purest love. It just really, they're straight from source. So that love is so pure. Yeah, and they just love you. There's no judgment. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I have a question as far as compatibility, because just going back, you were talking about Kentucky, Florida, and you went to Berkeley and over Boston, and you wanted to be around your people. So, and you've been married for a considerable amount of time. Did you meet, was your husband in this space also, or totally opposite?
No, totally opposite. And, when I first started dating him, we had so much fun. We just had a great time together. But I kept thinking in the back of my mind, well, he's not a psychic, so, I'm probably not going to end up with him for life. So we date. We were, again, just best friends. And I'd say, okay, let's do this relationship class because, eventually we're going to find different people. And so we'd do these books on relationships. And, you're telling each other your gut honesty because we both thought we'd be with different people. And so we broke up for a little while, and then, we just kept being attracted back together like little magnets because we just had so much fun. We do a garden together, and, a couple weeks into it, You're back in the sack again, just, having a grand time. And it just kept going. And it was like, are we just going to be best friends? Are we, is this going to really go anywhere? And obviously it did. I've been with him 33 years.
Wow.
But, it just goes back and forth. But we're still just best friends. We laugh. We have the best time. But we're in totally different, occupations. He's what I would call a house healer. He's a remodeler. But he changes the energy when he does it. So here's this kind of quiet guy, and he's in the background and he's remodeling somebody's house, and they go, oh, my God, it feels so different. And he does now recognize what a healer he is. But for many years, he just say, I just fix the color or the tile or whatever it was. But tremendous little healer. So, he totally gives me space to do my thing, and he remodels houses, and we just have a great time together. So, kind of fun to have that kind of relationship where you really know each other. The person gets you, good days or bad.
Yeah, it's not setting a limitation like I'm only going to meet a psychic, right? If we're all connected, you're not using any separation.
Yeah. And so when I first met him, I did have that picture. And, boy, I really realized, that was a mistake. He didn't have to be a psychic. He just had to give me the space to, let me do my thing, and I let him do his. So we agreed not to change each other, and it worked perfect.
Wow.
You lived out your high school yearbook. Don't ever change.
Yeah. That's it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. It's a good thing we didn't meet in high school. We would have really been in trouble. Yeah. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. So you mentioned, what the things that you enjoy when you were teaching children and stuff. What is it about you like about teaching when you're working with adults?
I think it's watching that light bulb go off in their head. Again, most people come in and they're in some stress. They're trying to figure out how to manage their life. And you give them some energy tools that make it easier. But you also really teach them that, hey, life is meant to be enjoyed. There's certain things like Anita Marjani, who's Dying to Be Me, she's that author, she wrote that book.
Yeah.
She died and came back, and she said, in heaven, it's like, when you hold that new baby and you look in their eyes, and, you get that warmth in your heart. Or you look at, your honey, and you have this intense passion for each other and love. Those feelings you don't have when you're on the other side. You have love, but it's in a whole different level. So having a body is really a tremendous gift. Food is another one, different tastes and sensations. So sometimes on the other side, they can be jealous, not really jealous, but they can envy us having these experiences that go hand in hand with having a body. Where when we're down here, we can look up there, or not really up, but and say, oh, "You come down here and run a body." It's so easy to keep your spirit. Yeah, you don't go through these growth periods that these bodies go through. So I think helping adults find their joy. It's like really love your life. Live it so you get up every day and you're like, woohoo, I'm here. It's a brand new day. Like yesterday doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
You're the sum total of everything you've learned, but you can't hold on to something that happened 30 years ago. It's a waste of your effort.
Yeah.
What you can do is take that wisdom and, be present right where you are right now and then move forward. So I think teaching adults, getting them back on track so that they really love living is my highest joy as a teacher. It's really seeing them turn on to their own life.
Yeah, it's life again.
Yeah, and even with their partner, it's like you can be married, and never lose that spark because you don't hold anything against each other. It's always fresh. And you start over every day. It's like, ooh, yowza, who are you?
Yeah.
And you get to know each other all over again in a different way. So it builds on that relationship. And I think, that's sometimes what we miss as adults is that freedom and that awareness to move forward.
Mm.
That was a lot of wisdom in that answer. That was a great answer.
Yeah, that was.
Thanks.
I know, Mary, that I think it's once a month, you do what is called, I think the Jesus channeling. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Okay. And I wanted you to, just talk about that a little bit, how that all got started and how long you've been doing it for.
Okay. I went to one of my favorite teachers on the whole planet is Philip Burley. And Philip was in Arizona. He's now moved to California. And his group is AIM, A-I-M, Adventures in Mastery. And I met Philip up in Mount Shasta. And there's something about him. It was like being in the presence of a saint. It's like there's this calm around him that you just don't experience. And the integrity he holds is just amazing. And so we became very good friends. And I just really love him like I do a brother. And he's happily married. I'm happily married. There's none of that. But it's just this love connection. And so he does readings, and he channels St. Germain. And in my reading, you get to ask like 6 or 7 questions. And so St. Germain and I were having a great time talking. And he said, and by the way, Jesus says it's high time you start to channel him. And I just kind of sat there for a minute going, holy Toledo. Okay. I really was kind of taken back, and I'm like, why me? And he's like, well, he really likes your sense of humor. You have a little bit of an irreverence at times. And he was really the same kind of teacher that you are. And, people have this picture of him that he's very solemn or he's very, serious. And he really has a tremendous sense of humor. And he would like to work with you because of your humor and your ability to, express truth. Your vibration is high enough. So I was like, okay. And I got off the phone and I called Hope, my partner, and I said, you will not believe what I got for homework. And we were howling. I'm like, oh, my God, how am I going to do this? Because it's a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I meditated. St. Germain suggested meditating at the same time every day and just working with him. And it took about a year. And they worked a lot on my crown chakra, raising the vibration so that we could match energy. And then I started, and now it's a lot easier. I always get a little nervous the night of it. It's like, what if he didn't come? What if I'm not in a good enough space? And he howls. He laughs at me so hard. It's just great. Yeah. And the vibration, again, it's like if you're in the room, and people do it on the phone as well, you can just feel the energy in the room. It's so high and so strong. And I always feel like when he's done, it's like it takes me about a half an hour to feel totally solid again. It's almost like the body feels molecular. And to just bring that energy down to just, and I tease him all the time. It's like, and you want to come through a female body? Are you crazy, dude? Because women are, we're always worrying about something or, getting something done. And so he just laughs. It's just really a fun relationship. And I feel that blessing to be part of it. So, it's getting out of the way and letting him speak and talk on whatever he's going to talk on. And I read the transcripts because, a lot of it, some of it I get, but a lot of it I don't. So it's really fun to read the transcripts.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, do you recall the sessions or do you just come back? Some of it? Okay.
Some of it. More, I recall the energy more than anything.
Okay.
But, again, it's so sweet. There's just so much love for us. And, again, nobody's judging us. It's the opposite. It's like, really love who you are. You're given this incredible opportunity to be in these bodies. And it's just, really celebrate your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, the wind playing through a flute. It's just like, Source moves through us. It's like, just show up. Be the love. No matter what it is. It's easy with, each other because we're kind of in the same page. But it's really hard sometimes with people we don't agree with. Can you love a terrorist? Can you love someone who's a different political field?
Yeah.
Can you love someone you're afraid of? And it's just like holding that love 24/7. And you learn to step into that. So I would say that's what I've learned from him. Plus, just, it's just so sweet. Just an amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to end the segment off of that. I don't know how we could top that. But I know there would be an interest in finding out about when you do the channeling. And as a digital marketer, I must say that I love your website. It's very nice. It's very clean. You have the social media, the sign up for the newsletter. Everything is so simple to navigate through. But for our audience, if you can give your contact information so they can get more information.
Sure. Our website is psychichorizonscenter.org. You can email us at hello@Psychic Horizon Center. Our phone number is 303-440-7171. And you're always welcome to join us. Almost all of our classes you can do by phone as well as in person. And if you're ever up in Boulder, come hang out. We love company.
Definitely. Mary, I definitely enjoyed our talk with you today. David?
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any last words, David?
I have so much to say to Mary, I don't even know where to start. But,
I know, that's why I was like, we better cut it off now because it's like 3 hours later.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. And, we have talked about interviewing you, and finally we're doing it. And I feel like we're probably going to have to do a part 2 at some point in time because I know there's so much more we'd like to talk about. So.
Sure. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks
All
again,
right.
Mary.
Don't cause trouble. All right.
Yes.
Good night.
So until next time, guys, this is David and Hamza with Intrinsic Motivation, and we'll check you out at our next podcast.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.